Hello, my name is Sorensen. Thanks for joining me as I tell you a little bit about the remarkable Neolithic village, Skara Brae. I'm up in the Orkney Islands, which among other things is known for some of the most impressive ancient archaeology in northern and western Europe. And Skara Brae is right up there at the top of that list. Skara Brae is one of several sites on the Orkney Islands that is run by an organisation called Historic Scotland. Both of my parents have, at different times, worked for Historic Scotland at some of their sites. My mother was a guide here at Skara Brae around 15 years ago, and my dad was a tour guide more recently at Maeshowe when he retired from teaching. Skara Brae is a stone-built Neolithic settlement consisting of 8 clustered houses that were occupied from around 3180 BC until 2500 BC. As the literature and video projections in the tourist centre point out, this makes Skara Brae older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Egypt. It is also Europe's most complete Neolithic village. The first thing we see as we leave the tourist centre is this amazing recreation of one of those clustered houses. It's really interesting to walk through these reconstructed corridors and consider that the residents of Skara Brae were building complex homes like this and kicking about in them more than 5,000 years ago. Even with our modern technology, Orkney is not a particularly hospitable environment for people to live and work in today, especially in the winter months. So, life back then must have been pretty difficult for the civilization in Skara Brae. Although, from what I've read, a shift in weather may have been the reason for them abandoning the village in 2500 BC. Scotland was hit by a severe storm in the winter of 1850, which caused loads of deaths and widespread damage to land and property. Apparently, the winds had stripped the earth from a large irregular knoll known as Skara Brae, and locals found the outline of this village when the storm cleared. The local laird began an amateur excavation of the site, but the project was abandoned in 1868 once 4 of the houses were uncovered. In 1924, after another powerful storm, it was decided that the site should be secured and properly investigated after one of the houses was partially swept away. This job was given to a professor and team from Edinburgh University. The houses in this village were built down into the ground to make use of earth sheltering and give the stone structures more stability. Living underground level also provided the inhabitants insulation against the harsh Orcadian winter climate. Each home in the village was around 430 square foot, with a large square room containing a stone hearth for heating and cooking. Each also contained a number of stone-built pieces of furniture, including cupboards, dressers, seats, and storage boxes. The dwellings in Skara Brae were entered through a low doorway and closed with a movable stone slab. The village also had a sophisticated drainage system built into its design, including a primitive form of toilet in each of the homes. Based on the number of homes and the size of each home, it is thought unlikely that Skara Brae could have housed more than 50 or so inhabitants at any one time. The people of Skara Brae produced a distinctive kind of pottery known as grooved ware. Remnants of this pottery has also recently appeared on the northern Scottish mainland. It is not known for certain what the inhabitants burned in their hearths to cook and keep warm. Some scholars assume they burned peat, which is abundant on these islands, but others think the climate and soil conditions were only conducive to the development of thick peat beds after Skara Brae had been abandoned. Instead, they believe that the villagers probably burned dried seaweed, driftwood, and animal dung. Due to the way that many of the Neolithic sites on the Orkney mainland seem to connect geographically, some scholars believe that Skara Brae was the home of a privileged class of theocrats who focused on astronomical and magical ceremonies at the nearby Ring of Brodgar and the Standing Stones of Stenness. However, as far as I can tell, most of the scholars believe that the grooved ware people that built Skara Brae were actually pastoralists who raised cattle and sheep. Excavations in 1972 unearthed seed grains from a midden that suggested barley was cultivated. There was also fish bone and shell evidence found to suggest that they ate seafood, which of course makes sense since the village was built on the coast next to the ocean. Along with Maeshowe, the Ring of Brodgar, and the Standing Stones of Stenness, Skara Brae was given World Heritage status back in 1999 as part of the Heart of Neolithic Orkney. Well, I hope you found this little walk and talk around Skara Brae interesting. It's one of many fascinating Neolithic sites on these islands, but it's hard to do justice to a place like Skara Brae in a video, because the weather, environment, and the constant sound of the Atlantic Ocean are so important to the whole experience. If you're a fan of archaeology or just like to visit and experience World Heritage sites in person, then get yourself a wee trip up to Orkney. You'll love it here, but be sure to dress suitably. This ain't the pyramids or the Parthenon. It's cold, wet, and windy up here. Thanks for watching.